Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to walk through the setup of some experiments I'm about to start in the garden. See these herb garden beds in the back? You can see 3 of them right here, and there's another one tucked behind me. What I plan to do is have one raised bed that's my control. That's going to have full sun. I'm allowing myself to use the various organic pesticides and insecticides and stuff that I use, like Spinosad, neem oil, BT. I'm allowing myself to use that one on the control. Now I'm going to have another raised bed that uses insect netting to keep the insects off. And I'm going to have a third raised bed where I do the DIY methods, like homemade DIY methods for pest control. Like, I've seen things like baking soda and water mixture, or a vinegar and water mixture, or a little bowl of like soy sauce and olive oil. Things like that are what I'm going to use on that third bed. My goal out of varying those 3 different types of insect control is figuring out what works best and what I like to use on leafy greens. My raised bed, that's the control in the experiment, is also going to have no fertilizer. I'm going to have a 4th raised bed where I use fertilizer that's meant for leafy greens, since that's what I'm planting. And I want to see really what kind of a difference it makes to apply fertilizer. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to sow the seeds and walk you through the drip irrigation that I've set up. And then I'll show you some of the individual nuances of each bed. Let's get into it. As far as the crops go, these are 24-inch by 24-inch raised beds. They're square. So that's 4 square feet. What I plan to do is kind of break it up into quadrants. One quadrant is going to be my herb quadrant. I want to understand how the herbs respond to fertilizer and the different pest control methods. But really, I haven't had much issue with pests on my herbs. I think the aromatics kind of keep pests away anyway. What I'm really interested in figuring out is whether or not fertilizer helps my herbs. This is cilantro. I'm going to plant 3 of these in each raised bed. I chose cilantro because my family loves cilantro. I could always use more cilantro. So like 3 times 4, 12 plants of cilantro is actually really good for my family. And then I'm gonna do 1 plant of Italian Genovese basil in each raised bed. I want to start making my own pesto and freezing some of it. And I also have had some issues with basil turning black in the past, and I want to try to see if I can figure out a better way to grow it. I'm going to do 1 plant of Thai basil in each raised bed as well. I've never grown it before, but I have a lot of bok choy growing in the garden right now, and I think that Thai basil goes really well with bok choy in stir fries or salads or soups or something like that. In another quadrant in the raised bed, I'm going to plant 9 plants of spinach. Spinach is something that I find I can use so easily. I can freeze it before it starts to wilt, and we can use them in smoothies or add it to soups that way, or I can eat it fresh and have it in a salad, or just saute it and add some eggs to it. There's so many easy ways to use spinach that I'm not concerned at all about having like an abundance of spinach. 9 in each herb garden, so I can figure out how to keep the pests off the spinach and how it responds to fertilizer. Another quadrant is going to have collard greens. I chose the Georgia Southern variety because that's what the University of Florida recommends for my area, so it should grow well. I also think that if I have 4 big heads of collard greens growing in the garden, it won't be an issue, because when you cook collard greens, they simmer down so much in volume that 4 heads is no problem at all for my family. The 4th square in each garden is going to be a napa cabbage. I don't have the seeds yet. They're coming from Johnny's Seeds in the mail in the next week, so I'll have to sow those a couple days late. And I just wanted to do napa cabbage because I can make an authentic kimchi, and I can also do some type of stir fry, other things that might go with that Thai basil that I am planting. Let me show you my temporary watering system. I made it temporary on purpose because right now these are 24 by 24 inch raised beds that are square from Vigo Garden, but in the future I plan to buy the extension kits and expand them to 24 inches by 8 feet. So I didn't want to go through and trench and everything like that. I figured I'll wait to do that. But in the meantime, I have this hose splitter right here. I plan to take my retractable Gorilla Tools hose and connect it to this top connector right here at a rate of probably twice a week or every other day. I'm going to be watering them for like an hour at a time because they're set up with drip irrigation. So drip irrigation it's like long term and it's slow. So something like an hour is normal for a drip irrigation system. Some people run it for more, some people run it for a little bit less. Some people run it more often. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. I find that I think like every other day for at least an hour is good, at least at this time of year. So if you look closely, this splits into four. Each one has its own shutoff valve. So I have just put adapters. This is a hose thread to 1/2-inch poly tubing adapter. And then I connected my 1/2-inch poly tubing, which is my main line for the drip irrigation on each bed. So I've got one here, 2, 3, 4 going out to that other raised bed out there. Let me show you this in a different view to make sure you guys can see. This is where I'll connect my regular hose from my garden hose, from my outdoor spigot. And these are hose thread to 1/2-inch PVC adapters, and I just pushed on the 1/2-inch poly tubing to connect it. I zip tied it to my fence to keep it stable, but also very removable. I can just cut it off if I need to take it off for some reason. Now let's go into each raised bed. I'll follow this main line. I'll show you, I just kind of zip tied it to my fence to keep it up off the ground. And this is the same drip setup on each bed. So like I talked about earlier, I'm mentally dividing this raised bed into 4 quadrants. This quadrant up here is where I'm gonna do Thai basil, and 3 cilantros. Up here I'm gonna do my 9 spinach plants. Here will be the collards, and here is gonna be the napa cabbage. I tried to keep the watering consistent throughout the bed. They're all done in the same way. This is 1/4-inch poly tubing drip line with 0.5 GPH emitters embedded every 12 inches. Each bed has 6 emitters on the 1/4-inch drip line. 1 emitter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each one has a button dripper for collards and a button dripper for the napa cabbage. I really just did the watering like that because I'm trying to do my best at making it consistent through the bed, so a difference in watering doesn't alter my results of my experiments. So that was, we'll call that raised bed number 1. This is raised bed number 2. I believe raised bed number 2 is the one where I'm going to put fertilizer. And the way I'm going to do that is I bought an inline fertilizer injector from Drip Depot. I'm going to get it in the mail next week, and I'll put it right here. That way I can apply the fertilizer in the same way every single time. Here is the 3rd raised bed. This one is the one with insect netting. So the drip irrigation is the same. I tried my best to keep a good seal. This is made with magnetic tape, actually. Vigo Garden raised beds are magnetic. And so it's adhesive on one side and magnetic on the other. So the insect netting is just sticking to that adhesive. And I'm not really sure how well it's gonna work. We'll see. I tried to keep that seal. This is like an access door for seed sowing or harvesting or whatever I need to do in there. And then you follow this line over here to the 4th raised bed. They're all done the same way. Drip line, 2 button drippers. I'll start with Thai basil. I'm gonna just sow 1 seed per spot. These are fresh seeds. I'm not concerned about something not germinating. And I'd rather take the risk on germination than Have to come back out and thin them. I finished sowing all the seeds, except for the napa cabbage that I don't have yet from Johnny Seeds. And I just turned the water on to water them in. Let's take a closer look. So you can see the button drippers letting 0.5 gallons per hour come out. Each emitter, let me make sure there's no shadow. Yeah, you can see that. Each emitter is also dripping at a rate of 0.5 GPH per hour, 6 per bed. And once this gets going for an hour, you'll see a lot more wetness on the surface of the soil. Now, to help retain moisture, once I get seedlings that are probably about this big, I'll go ahead and mulch all 4 of the beds. That's it for setting up the experiments. Hope you like the video. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I'm going to go through and give you one more walkthrough of all 4 beds. Bed number 1. Bed number 2. Bed number 3 is the one with the insect netting. And bed number 4, the control.